Plant and Animal Cell Presentation by Ella Hansen. The function of a cell. The function of a plant cell is to support the plant and make energy and store water for the plant. The function of an animal cell is to store water for the animal, also to help the animal move and get around. The nucleus. The function of the nucleus is to keep everything in order and to make sure all the parts of a cell are working. It is basically the brain of a cell. The cell membrane. The function of a cell membrane is to keep particles in and let good particles out. The function of a mitochondria is to produce energy for the cell. They are called powerhouses of the cell. The cell wall. The cell wall helps hold the cell in a sturdy hold, not letting the plant move. The chloroplast. The function of the chloroplast is to create food for the plant through a process called photosynthesis. The vacuole. The function of a vacuole is to store water for the cell. The vacuole in the plant cell is bigger than the vacuole in the animal cell. The Golgi bodies. The Golgi bodies receive proteins and package them throughout the cell. The ribosomes. The ribosomes act as factories for the cell. They produce protein for the cell. The animal cell. The ribosomes act as factories for the animal cell. They produce protein for the cell. The nucleus. The function of the nucleus is to keep everything in order and to make sure all the parts of the cell are working. It is basically the brain of the cell. The mitochondria. The function of the mitochondria is to produce energy for the cell. They are called the powerhouses of the cell. Animal cell continued. The Golgi bodies receive proteins and package them throughout the cell. The cell membrane. The function of the cell membrane is to keep particles out and let good particles in. The Golgi bodies. The Golgi bodies receive proteins and package them throughout the cell. A cell is similar to a country. The fences at the border are the cell wall, keeping people out, and the airports and border guards are the cell membrane, letting good people in and bad people out. The government is like the nucleus, keeping everything in order. Restaurant and grocery stores act as chloroplast for the cell, supplying the country with food. The mitochondria would be powerhouses, making energy. The ribosomes would be like factories, producing objects and other items for the country. The Golgi bodies would replace the post office, delivering stuff to the people of the country. For the water supply replacing the vacuoles, there would be water towers, holding all the water. The structure of a cell wall and cell membrane. The cell wall is thin and flexible and allows the cell to move. The animal needs to move, so that is why the animal cell only has the cell membrane and not the cell wall. The cell wall is built strong and sturdy and is not meant to allow the cell to move. This is why only the plant cells have cell walls, because the animals need to be able to move around, while the plant cell needs to be held steady. The cell membrane and the cell wall are like the walls and ceiling of a house. The insulation is like the cell membrane, keeping the heat inside the house. The siding and frame of the house is like the cell wall. It is sturdy and keeps the house from falling apart.